For 3 years, my world had been framed by the four walls of our pristine apartment and the boundless devotion of my husband, Julian. After the car crash that stole the use of my legs, he became my hands, my feet, my unwavering champion. In everyone's eyes, he was the perfect husband, a saint. To protect my fragile emotional state, he handled everything, never once staying out late. When a well-meaning friend suggested he should divorce me for his own good, Julian's fury was legendary. "Clara is my wife for this lifetime and the next," he had roared, severing ties with that person immediately. Hearing this, I wept with a mixture of gratitude and crushing guilt for being the anchor tied to his feet. This guilt became my fuel. Secretly, I contacted a physical therapist, a friend I trusted, and began the grueling journey of rehabilitation. The day I finally stood on my own 2 feet, I planned a surprise. I wheeled myself to his office, my heart pounding with the vision of rising from my chair before his astonished eyes. Instead, the scene that greeted me through the slightly ajar office door was one of an entirely different kind of astonishment. There was Julian, his eyes glazed over with a familiar, intoxicating haze, entangled with another woman. They were exploring, as he might have poetically put it, the very harmony of life. And the woman, the one entwined with my perfect husband, was a face I knew all too well. She was Ava, the assistant Julian had insisted on hiring for me, just one day after I had finally agreed to start working again. By the time Julian arrived home, I was still a ghost in my own skin, replaying the scene in his office. The man who supposedly loved me more than life itself, performing an act of primal betrayal. He swept me into a hug, but my body went rigid. "What's wrong?" he murmured into my hair, his voice a practiced caress. "Who upset my precious Clara?" I meant to be home earlier, but a last-minute project held me up. I simply nodded, the lie a bitter taste in my mouth. I kept the secret of my legs locked away. "I went to your company," I said, my voice carefully neutral. The effect was instantaneous. A flicker of panic, quickly suppressed, crossed his face. "You did? Why didn't you come in and find me?" I watched him, a performer desperate not to have his mask slip. "Your office door was locked. I figured you were in a meeting." The relief that washed over him was so palpable it was nauseating. "I'm tired," I said, cutting off whatever performance was coming next. "I want to sleep early." I couldn't bear to watch him act. The question hammered in my mind. How could a love so profound simply vanish into the arms of another? My legs, the ones that had just rediscovered their strength, throbbed with a phantom pain, a deep cellular sense of betrayal. If it hadn't been for the accident that left my legs numb and lifeless, I might never have known the depths of Julian's love. We weren't even married then, and everyone assumed our relationship was over. Who, after all, would chain themselves to a cripple? But Julian did. As I lay in that sterile hospital bed, wishing for death, he had clung to me, his voice cracking. "Please don't leave me alone." His desperation was my salvation. He proposed to me there, amidst the scent of antiseptic, completely undeterred by the fact that I was a broken woman who couldn't even care for herself. I believed in his love utterly and completely. He hadn't abandoned me at my lowest. He threw a lavish wedding to prove it, carrying me in his arms down the entire aisle. "It doesn't matter what you are," he had whispered. "As long as it's you, I'm happy." But I had fatally underestimated a man's need for a normal physical relationship. For 3 years he had toiled, and for 3 years I had writhed in guilt. His relentless goodness became an unspoken burden, a debt I could never repay. He was exhausted, and so was I. That was why I pushed myself in secret, enduring hours of painful rehabilitation while he was at work. I dreamed of the day I would stand before him and say, "You've worked so hard. Now let me take care of you." I never imagined that on the very day I could, my world would shatter. The day I stood up, Julian was cheating with the very assistant he had handpicked for me. Her name was Ava. Julian had recommended her with such enthusiasm. I was an illustrator, and while the accident hadn't crippled my hands, it had crippled my spirit. I became a recluse, content to paint in my study, refusing to engage with the business side of my studio. Julian constantly urged me to venture out, to ignore the pitying stares. But the fear and self-loathing were a cage. Seeing me wither away, he had an idea. The day after I agreed to re-engage with my studio, he announced he'd found me an assistant. "She can handle the business side, the networking," he'd said. "She's good. but not so ambitious she'll be a threat to you. Initially, I resisted. Ava was too beautiful, too young. The primal jealousy a woman feels is not easily dismissed. But Julian was insistent. She won't be a threat to either of us, he promised. To prove it, he created a group chat for the three of us, making a point of never adding her as a separate contact. Any business that required his input was to be discussed openly in the group. His transparency won me over. I trusted them completely. Until today. I looked down at my legs, once numb and useless. I had tried a few times to initiate intimacy, to soothe the needs I knew he must have. Each time he would gently stop me, his eyes full of a saintly tenderness. Don't force yourself, my love. Our bond doesn't depend on that. I'm not some kind of animal. As long as you're okay, I'm okay. I saw the bob of his Adam's apple, the fight for control in his jaw. I heard him get up in the middle of the night, the sound of the bathroom faucet running for long stretches. The guilt was a constant companion. My thoughts were a tangled mess. I didn't know where it all went wrong, but the conclusion was brutally simple. Julian was having an affair with my assistant, and it hadn't just started. Later that evening, he wrapped his arms around me from behind my wheelchair. Did you eat well today? I was so busy I couldn't come home for lunch. I know you're busy, I replied, forcing a gentle smile. I reached out and playfully touched his chest. Darling, I feel so guilty. All these years I haven't been able to satisfy you. We don't even have a child. It's all my fault. He immediately captured my hand, pressing it to his lips. Don't say such things. Having you by my side is more than enough. I know I haven't been present enough for you lately. That's why you feel insecure. Don't worry, I'll spend more time with you tomorrow, I promise. He stared at me, his gaze intense. I leaned into his embrace and nodded. Satisfied, he tried to lull me to sleep. After a few minutes of my feigned, steady breathing, he crept out of the room and onto the balcony. His hushed voice drifted back to me. My wife's been on edge lately. We shouldn't contact each other for a while. A pause. I couldn't hear the other side. Then Julian's voice, softer, more intimate. Asking me to come see you. That was a one-time thing. Don't call me when I'm at home again. I'll come over later. Just as I predicted. He hung up, changed his clothes with practiced silence, and left, but not before placing a Judas kiss on my forehead. The video from the private investigator arrived moments later. My heart still seized with a visceral pain. On the screen, the two of them were kissing passionately before the door was even fully closed. What followed was a raw, graphic display that made a mockery of my entire marriage. I heard my good assistant's voice, broken and breathless, mixed with pleasure. She can't even satisfy you. Why do you insist on staying with her? Julian's response, muffled by their actions, was the final nail in my heart's coffin. I indulge you because you're discreet. But if you ever cause a scene in front of my wife, everything you have now will disappear. I can have many lovers, Clara, but I only have one wife. I didn't need to see Ava's reaction. It was clear who held the power. The phrase, I can have many lovers, echoed in my head, a nauseating refrain. I immediately instructed the investigator to dig deeper into his past. The results were staggering. Julian wasn't just having an affair. He was a true master of time management, juggling women like a professional. The portfolio of photos showed a man lost to hedonism. A far cry from the suffering saint he played for me. The foundation of our love story crumbled. He was the rich heir, I was the girl from a modest family. Our meeting seemed like a fairy tale. University field trip to the mountains. I got lost and he was the one who found me, soaked and shivering in a hunter's pit with a sprained ankle. In the pouring rain, he carried me out of that dark forest. We were inseparable after that. He was my protector, my provider, my everything. The only major fight we ever had was after the crash, when I tried to break up with him, and he sobbed, begging me not to give up on him. I wheeled myself to his study, to a corner I had never dared to touch. It held Julian's secrets, a safe I had respectfully ignored to be the perfect, trusting wife. The contents made my blood run cold. I quickly photographed a particular set of documents with my phone before placing everything back. Exactly as I'd found it. My heart hammered against my ribs. A wave of cold relief washed over me. Thank God I hadn't told him I could walk. I had the documents authenticated. The result was a truth more horrific than I could have imagined. My car crash hadn't been an accident. Julian had arranged it. There was a piece of this puzzle I was missing, but before I could solve it, I had to survive. I had to remain the helpless woman in the wheelchair. My recovery was a secret known only to my doctor and me. I called him, telling him I planned to surprise Julian on our anniversary. He promised to maintain confidentiality. That small assurance settled my nerves. When Julian came home that night, he found me sketching in the living room. "Why aren't you in the study?" he asked, draping his arms around me. I leaned into him, my own performance beginning. "I was thinking you work so hard. I need to step up and stop holding you back. I love you just the way you are," he cooed, his lips near my ear. I had to fight the urge to vomit. I pulled away slightly. "Darling, you've done so much managing the studio for me these past few years. I'd like to visit tomorrow." He stiffened. "I thought you were afraid of seeing people. Or do you not trust me with it anymore?" I turned to him, my expression a mask of pure innocence. "What are you talking about? You're my husband, of course I trust you. Just, life has to go on. I need to face the fact that I can't walk, right?" He studied my face for a long moment, searching for any hint of deception. Seemingly satisfied, he said, "All right, I'll make the arrangements and go with you. I don't want you going alone." "Okay." A moment later, I saw him type in our group chat, tagging Ava. "My wife and I will be visiting the studio tomorrow. Please be prepared to welcome us." Ava's reply came a few minutes later, of course. As I put my phone down, Julian announced he was going to take a shower. I wondered why a man needed to take his phone into the shower with him. Ava was ready for my arrival, flanked by an assistant I'd never seen before. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice cool. The stranger bristled. "Mrs. Archer, you're rarely here. Ava can't possibly manage everything alone. I'm her assistant. Does something like this really require your personal approval? Mr. Archer knows about me." At her words, I turned my gaze to Julian. "Is that so, darling? Is this how you've been managing my studio?" I offered a small, knowing smile and said nothing more, pushing my wheelchair further inside. The staff was deferential to my face, but it was clear. Their true allegiance lay with Ava. Julian, for his part, spent the entire time praising her, detailing how capable and indispensable she was. Though Ava tried to hide it, I saw the flicker of contempt in her eyes. As we were about to leave, I stopped. "You all feel Ava works so hard that you look down on me, is that it? But let me remind you, every penny of profit this studio makes, every salary you're paid, comes from the art created by the disabled woman you despise. You only remember Ava's contributions, is that right? Fine. You can all resign along with her." "What do you mean?" Ava's composure finally cracked. Her tone, once respectful, turned hostile. "Mrs. Archer, surely you don't think you can fire me without Mr. Archer's approval? He's the one who hired me. With my qualifications, I could have been at Archer Enterprises." "Then why didn't you go?" I asked sweetly. "Because Mr. Archer said you were pathetic and needed my help." She spat, all pretense gone. She was ready for a fight. I turned my wheelchair to face my husband. "Do you think I'm pathetic, Julian?" The question hung in the air, stunning him into silence. He finally turned to Ava, his face a thundercloud. "Ava, you've crossed a line. You're fired." Ava, who had been preening for a victory, looked as if she'd been slapped. She couldn't comprehend why, with all her youth, beauty, and competence, she was still losing to a cripple. "Mr. Archer," she stammered, her eyes welling with tears, "I've worked here for years. Even if there's no merit, there's been hard work. You're firing me. I'll give you 3 times the standard severance," he said coldly. Then he addressed the others. "And since the rest of you seem confused about who signs your paychecks, you can go too. See HR on your way out." The sudden mass firing sent a shockwave through the room. One staffer grabbed Ava's arm. "Ava, you told us Mrs. Archer was a nobody. You said, if we made a fuss, Mr. Archer would side with you. Now we've lost our jobs. We have mortgages, car payments. What are we supposed to do?" Then they turned on me. "Mrs. Archer, we were wrong, but she instigated it. We're not rich like you, we need to live. Are you really going to be this cruel?" A chorus of moral blackmail erupted. It was almost funny. They truly believed my disability was my greatest weakness. I decided not to disappoint them. I looked at Julian, my eyes filling with tears. "So this is why you insisted on hiring her? To humiliate me? Julian, what is going on between you two?" I had finally said it, in front of everyone. Julian's face was grim. He put a comforting arm around me. Clara, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. I hired her because she's capable. There were no ulterior motives. She's been fired. Please don't overthink this. But I pressed on. This isn't my studio, is it? It's Ava's studio. That award on the wall, the one with her name on it, that's a modified version of one of my paintings. She dared to steal my work, and this is what you call capable. My accusation sent Ava into a frenzy. She rushed towards me. So what? Your fans only know your pen name, they've never seen your face. Who would believe you? Mrs. Archer, a cripple like you should just stay home. Ava! Julian's roar stopped her. She flinched, biting back whatever else she was about to say. She was still afraid of him. Julian turned his full wrath on her. Get out. Get out of here right now. We don't employ people who disrespect the owner. As for the plagiarism, I will personally submit the evidence to the award committee. You'd better prepare the money to settle this, and you will apologize to my wife. Otherwise, I will see you in court. His threats were so brutal that Ava was left speechless. She was young, having followed Julian since graduation. She was no match for his mind games. You're going to report me for plagiarism, she whispered, horrified. You know that will ruin me. You're going to destroy my life. I told you from the beginning. Be professional. My wife is my bottom line. You crossed it. He was still playing the part of the devoted husband. I thought Ava might finally expose their affair in a fit of rage, but she swallowed her pride. Instead, she did something I didn't expect. She fell to her knees before me and began to slap her own face. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Archer. It was a mistake, I wasn't thinking. Please don't sue me. I need this job. I've worked so hard for years. If you expose me, my career is over. I'm so young, I don't want to be ruined. Please, I'm begging you. Her crying was dramatic, pitiful. But I saw Julian's hand, clenched into a tight fist at his side. He was terrified for her. That small gesture was a dagger to my heart. He had even deceived himself. He clearly cared for her. The peanut gallery chimed in again. She didn't mean it. Mrs. Archer is just bullying her. The rich can get away with anything. I ignored them and looked at the few who were speaking up. I'm curious, I said calmly. Did any of you participate in this plagiarism? I've already called my lawyer and an accountant. They are on their way to conduct a full audit. If any discrepancies are found, every single person involved will be held accountable. I let my gaze sweep across the room. You are all adults. You are responsible for your actions. I saw the panic in their eyes as they shot nervous glances at Ava. They were all in on it. The lawyer and accountant arrived with surprising speed. Julian was completely caught off guard. I've already fired them, he hissed at me. Isn't this going too far? Let the public decide what's fair, I replied smoothly. This is my studio, and I will protect my intellectual property. As for Ava, you fired her, not me. And after this audit, if there's evidence of further wrongdoing, a simple resignation won't solve the problem. Julian stared at me, a dawning horror on his face. What do you mean? Let the public decide. I was afraid people would think I was a rich bully throwing my weight around, I said with a sweet smile. So I started a live stream the moment I entered. By now our name should be trending. I looked up at him. Did I do the right thing, darling? A visible tremor ran through him. Then, his arm was around me again, the picture of support. Of course, my love. You always do the right thing. Hearing the word live stream, the color drained from Ava's face. The professionals worked quickly, ignoring the drama. Julian stood by my wheelchair, his hand resting on it, but I could feel it trembling. He knew what they would find. The results were swift and damning. Ava had set up a private bank account, taking on commissions in my name and pocketing the fees. For years, she had been telling me the market for my work was saturated because my disability slowed my output. All the while, she was lining her own pockets. The audit also uncovered a list of competitions she had entered using my work, which required attendance at award ceremonies. I didn't say a word. I just had the guest lists from those ceremonies sent to my phone. The day ended with me filing a police report. Ava was taken into custody for fraud. As we left, Julian was a whirlwind of excuses. I never knew she was like this, Clara. I swear I thought she was just a talented, ambitious girl. If I'd had any idea. I pulled out my phone and showed him the guest list, his name right next to Ava's. Julian, do you know why I only sued her for fraud? He froze. Clara, let me explain. When she asked me to accompany her, she never said it was for an awards ceremony. By the time I realized, I thought it would be bad for your reputation if people knew my famous illustrator wife was that you were disabled. I was afraid you'd overthink it, so I never told you. But you have to believe me, I never intended for her to impersonate you. But Julian, I said, my voice breaking, my tears part real, part performance, why didn't you tell me this yesterday? If you had, none of this would have happened. After everything you've done for me for 3 years, you think I couldn't forgive you for this one thing? My tears had the desired effect. He dropped to his knees beside my wheelchair. Believe me, Clara, I love you so much. I would never do anything to hurt you. But Ava has to apologize to me, I sobbed. Don't worry, he vowed. I'll handle it. That night I told Julian I needed space. I'm exhausted. Let's sleep in separate rooms for a while. Seeing my heart break, he had no choice but to agree. I had 2 reasons. First, the thought of him touching me was repulsive. Second, I couldn't let him discover my legs had healed. Late that night, I heard his car start and drive away. The PI's next report was no surprise. Julian was pulling every string he could for Ava. He used his position as my husband to issue a letter of understanding on my behalf, getting her released on bail. Seeing the proof, the pain was gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. Julian said he loved me, and perhaps in his twisted way he did. But he loved the freedom of his desires more. A wife who couldn't perform her duties for 3 years might be his cherished white swan, but he would still seek out other pawns to satisfy his physical needs. I wasn't surprised he was working so hard for her. I knew why. Ava was pregnant. Knowing Julian, he would never have divorced me for her. His plan, I now realized, was likely to let her carry the child to term, then use my inability to conceive as a pretext to bring the baby into our home for me to raise. And I, the trusting, grateful wife, would have become a doting stepmother to my husband's illegitimate child. His plan, however, never accounted for me discovering Ava's dirty secrets. These past few days, Julian has been glued to my side, supposedly to comfort me, but in reality to monitor me. He's afraid I'll find out Ava is out on bail and go after her. But I'm too busy. I'm taking back my studio, and Ava is not the only person I need to deal with. Julian is busy at night too. He has moved Ava to a quiet house in the countryside to rest. The PI's updates are constant. One night Ava had a scare with a potential miscarriage. Julian was terrified. He told me he had an urgent business trip and would be gone for a week. I smiled and wished him well. He seemed to forget that the perfect husband never took urgent, unplanned trips. He was truly desperate. With him gone, I moved quickly. I gathered all the documents from his study, and then I sold my studio. The buyer was Landon, Julian's biggest corporate rival. Then I logged into my official verified social media accounts. I laid out the entire story. Julian and Ava's affair, her plagiarism, the fake persona, the pregnancy. I am not a kind person. I waited until he was at his most vulnerable, and then I went for the kill. Ava could not keep this baby. If Julian, in the name of love, chose to protect his mistress and their child, his company's stock would plummet. If he chose to play the repentant husband, begging for my forgiveness, public sympathy for a man's moment of weakness would eventually fade, and he would remain the perfect husband in the public eye. So which would he choose? My posts, complete with our marriage certificate and damning chat logs, went viral. Julian and Ava were trending. The footage from my studio livestream was the nail in their coffin. And then a video of them at the countryside house, clearly showing Ava's pregnancy, was leaked. The internet exploded. I was sipping tea when Julian's call came. The moment I answered, his voice, stripped of all its honeyed affection, lashed out. Why would you do this? Clara, are you trying to destroy me? Yes, I said calmly. Clara, I've been so good to you. You can't forgive me one mistake? Your body is broken. We haven't been husband and wife for years. Ava is just giving me a child. Are you really going to burn everything to the ground? His voice was thick with pain, as if I were the villain. In the face of losing everything, his mask was nothing but dust. Julian, I said, my voice cold, you're a smart man. You know what the best outcome is here. The studio is sold to Landon. I'm sure he'll be very interested to discover how you used my company to help Ava embezzle funds and transfer assets. I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end. I let out a small chilling laugh. Julian, didn't you tell Ava I was mentally unstable, twisted? Well, now I'm acting the part, aren't I? This is the kind of crazy you always said I was. He was speechless. I'll give you one day, I continued. If you don't make a choice, then I will. He screamed, you're insane, into the phone. I hung up. I knew a man as smart as Julian would make the choice I wanted. He would have to kill his own child. He didn't make me wait long. The media descended on the countryside house like vultures. Armed with cameras and microphones, they cornered him. Mr. Archer, what is your comment on your relationship with Miss Ava? We hear you have a child together. Is it true you plan for this illegitimate child to inherit your fortune, given your wife's disability? The questions were brutal. Julian's face darkened. He saw the live streaming phones and his expression shifted. It was a mistake, he said, his voice heavy with false regret. I was drunk and I betrayed Clara. This child was not conceived in love, it was a mistake. I won't allow one mistake to ruin my life. Beside him, Ava's face crumpled. Overcome with a sudden maternal fury, she lunged at him, screaming, Julian, you bastard. You're sacrificing our baby for your company. I'm the mother of this child. If any of you touch my baby, I'll kill you. She was hysterical. Julian tried to grab her, but she broke free and ran towards the press. The media, sensing a bigger story, formed a protective wall around her. Julian Archer is a sanctimonious hypocrite, she shrieked. You all think I'm a shameless homewrecker, don't you? I slept with my boss's husband, had his child, and used her work to build my own career. Do you think I wasn't scared at first? I was terrified. All Clara had to do was step outside, and I would have been exposed as a fraud. But do you know why I succeeded? Because of him. He was the one who brainwashed her, telling her how the world judged her for being a cripple, how people would laugh at her if she left the house. He's the one who kept her locked away for 3 years. Tears streamed down her face. You won't believe me, but I used to be her biggest fan. I adored her. But when I met her, and saw this helpless woman who couldn't even care for herself, I thought, how could someone like this be my idol? After I stole her husband, I realized it was easy. It's so easy to crush your idol and grind them into the mud. She broke into manic laughter. In that moment, Julian saw his chance. He lunged, grabbing a handful of her hair. Ava screamed in pain as he tried to drag her back inside. The crowd gasped. Blood! There's blood! The pregnant woman is bleeding. Julian froze, as if just now remembering he had an audience. He let go of her, shaking his head. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Ava miscarried. Julian lost his mind. After her recovery, Ava was arrested. The fraudulent accounts meant she was facing serious prison time. As for Julian, the Archer family announced he was having a nervous breakdown and would be sent abroad to recuperate. His mother came to see me. I never approved of him marrying you, she spat, her eyes full of venom. A cripple. What was there to love? But he insisted. He never imagined you were a venomous snake who would drive him to this. I was unmoved. I simply slid a divorce agreement across the table, one that gave me 70% of their marital assets. If you sign this today, this is where it ends. If not, I can't promise I'll remain so reasonable. You shameless gold digger, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. You were a curse on our family from day one. How dare you ask for so much? I suggest you sign, I said coolly. You and I both know Julian isn't really insane. But if you haggle with me, the evidence of how he hired someone to cause my accident, the evidence that will send him to prison for attempted murder, goes directly to the police. Her face went slack. She knew. He didn't mean to hurt you, she stammered. You wouldn't agree to marry him. Our family wouldn't name him the heir until he was settled. We had no choice. He's cared for you all these years. He was even going to raise that woman's child under your name. Wasn't that enough? Why did you have to push him this far? So, as I said, I interrupted, tired of her pathetic excuses. Divorce, and I set him free. Otherwise, things get complicated. These people, they thought they were above the law. Julian signed the papers that night. I knew he wasn't crazy. The Archer family had a new leader, and for now Julian had to play the madman. I took the money and the shares, and without a moment's hesitation, sold my entire stake to Landon, his rival. That was what truly broke him. He showed up at my door that night, his eyes wild. Clara, are you trying to kill me? I gave you all that money, the shares, and you turn around and sell them to Landon. To use against me? Do you even have a heart? I made you disabled so we could be married. I never wanted to kill you. I stood by you for years. What more could you want? I looked at the raving man before me. So you admit you're not insane? Of course I'm not. This is temporary. Clara, you won't survive without me. You're a cripple. You can have all the money in the world, but you'll still be a worthless cripple. He looked down at me, his expression full of that old familiar condescension. The old me would have withered under his gaze, drowning in guilt. But I was not the old me. Slowly, deliberately, I rose from my wheelchair. Julian, I said, my voice like ice. Did you really think I was still that fool? He stared, his mouth agape, as I took a step towards him. For your so-called love, I put myself through hell to recover, just to give you a surprise. And my surprise was finding you in bed with my assistant. I took another step. You orchestrated my disability, filled my head with poison so I would retreat from the world, so I would be your prisoner. Another step. You let Ava replace me, let her get pregnant to betray me. You call that love, Julian? Your love was a blade coated in sugar, designed to cut me to pieces. And you ask why I won't let you go. My voice dropped to a whisper. Between you and me, Julian, this was always a fight to the death. His face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. You brought this on yourself, Clara. He lunged for me. He was going to kill me. In that instant, I grabbed the wine glass I had placed on the table in anticipation of his visit and smashed it on the floor. The sound was a signal. The front door burst open, and police officers swarmed in. Did he really think I would face a murderer alone? His initial crime compounded by this new attempt on my life. There would be no forgiveness. At his trial, Julian confessed to everything. He was sentenced to 20 years. By the time he gets out, the Archer dynasty will be a distant memory. He asked to see me one last time. I went. I really did love you, he said, his eyes hollow. You just never loved me as much. He paused. For what I did to you. I am truly sorry. I accept your apology, I said, looking directly into his eyes. But I do not forgive you. I saw the last flicker of hope die in his eyes. As I turned to leave, I delivered the final fatal blow. After all, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion, who could ever love a murderer? I didn't look back, but I could feel his world crumbling into dust. From now on, the guilt would be his to live with. Forever. And